All right. Good evening, Nigerians, wherever you are. I don't know which part of the world where you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This Sunday evening, we are going to be relaxing. I want us to be in a relaxed mode while we bring you the latest of what is happening in Nigeria, specifically in this government that has been foisted on us. The first thing we're going to bring you this night has to do with the massive scandal of how Nigeria, being under economic pressure, our currency is cratering, yet our president and his team are using our resources, the hard-earned money we couldn't even earn, to enjoy themselves in the guise of UN General Assembly last September. You can see it there in front of the page, the amount of money that was ballooned from how many days? From the 16th to the 23rd of September. As much as over $400,000, $422,820 were crushed as hotel bill. Okay, we're also going to give us updates today that indeed it may have not come from the White House. It may have not come from the foreign office of the United States, but indeed the agencies that support the government in the US that help them to form their decision are really sending strong signal to Nigeria, especially the Supreme Court, to do the needful, so that if they want Nigeria to have a very good diplomatic relationship with USA, they need to be sure that they have a president that USA will be interested in relating with and interacting with. We're also going to be bringing to your knowledge the way our ministers were appointed, another kitchen cabinet, or call it a cabal. Probably this time around, the young boy, the 38-year-old boy, in the name of Tinubu, the son of the president, he's actually the henchman behind the appointment that we see today. No wonder he's flying around Nigeria with the presidential jet. If you're a president, you fly in the presidential jet, isn't it? When he arrived in Kano, not as a private citizen who went to watch a polo match, he came on a presidential jet and he had the security protocol that only go or receive president. That tells you who is behind. He's running the show for us. He's running the show for us, and we're bringing you the information on how it's happening, those he has appointed, so that if you run into those ministers tomorrow, don't call them the president's appointee, call them Sheyi's appointee. Also, if we're able to lay hand on that video today, we show you how they are turning Csu Cert as a party hub for the young stars. You know, when a 38-year-old organizes a party in Csu Cert, only God knows what they turn that place to be. All right, so let's start from the first one. Ifeoma, what do we have? The information we have, where do we start? From the hotel bill? Is that okay?
Yes, Doc, let's take this. I think it's really shocking seeing this kind of amount being spent on just a hotel, you know. I really want you to take on this first.
Okay, well, it's a simple and a straightforward thing. I am not going to say that it is illegal for the president to spend money on a hotel bill, but the law, the letters of the law might give him that permission. But what of the letters of conscience? What of the letters of morals? What of the letters of the empathy, considering what Nigerians are going through? Let me draw us to a side story a little bit so I can come back to this for it to make sense. I got calls from people, you know, all these people that are jabbering out of Nigeria, going to US, especially the ones that are happening in the UK because of the doors that have been opened in UK and in Canada. Those Nigerians are not jabbering because they enjoy it really, but because of the hardship and the challenge and the tough time in Nigeria. That is why that is happening. And do you know one thing? Somebody called and said, I came here, I can't even get the job they are giving me. And the person cannot go back to Nigeria. And in the midst of all this crunch, importers cannot access foreign exchange to get raw materials, to import parts for engineering works and other things. And you do know one thing? One industrialist that could not access money to access foreign exchange to be able to buy raw materials or buy parts for or some other things like that, that will result in the loss of job. That will result in the loss of job. For who? For those people that importer, for those people that industrialists have. And what it means is that the so-called joblessness we don't have in Nigeria will keep on increasing. And in the midst of all this, can you give me that slide again if you don't mind? In the midst of all these things, so that Nigerians can see exactly how much we are dealing with here. We can see the bank details during the UN General Assembly. I know this is a government paper, so it's not supposed to be colorful. Signed, dated on the 11th of September. A total sum of $422,820 was signed out for how many days? For, say 23 minus 16 will give you what? Will give you a chicken, sorry, just give me a second, 23. That was just about 7 days. About 7 days, that's where they ballooned 422,000. About 7 days. That's giving you how much a day? Just for hotel accommodation. We have not talked about other expenses, protocols, and what have you. The question is, whereas it is the right of the president to write off such expenses, is this the time for such a thing, considering what Nigeria is going through? That brings us to the part of empathy on the side of those politicians. Remember how much they appropriated for themselves in the National Assembly. They call it for furniture and to make, they call it for what allowance again? Hardship allowance. We're not talking about their salary, the hardship allowance, something to soften the ground for them to work. So these people we have in power, they are in another world altogether. They are living in their own utopia. They don't even care what is happening to us. They don't care how many people that could not pay their school fees, how many parents that couldn't pay the school fees of their children. In fact, whilst they are living their life normal and increasing their comfort, they are increasing the discomfort of Nigerians because people are losing their jobs. Naira is losing its value. Parents cannot pay school fees. Out of frustration, many youths are going into drug. There is no plan on how to help those boys that are going into Yahoo Yahoo, or those girls that are taken to prostitution, as the case may be. Our government officials are living their life as if this is the best days of Nigeria, despite the fact that as it stands today, the economy of Nigeria today is worse. The only time we can compare the economy of Nigeria to now was a time when the outgone president was in power from January 1st, 1984 to August 27, 1985. These same people, they deal with us, they impoverish us, they enjoy themselves. So Nigerians, it's good to know that this is what we have. Now, David is telling us here, he says, an interesting note is that under previous administrations, all the way until present, perhaps such ad hoc USD expenses were usually taken from the NNPC account. In fact, the summary of what David is trying to say here is that NNPC doesn't have money. They do not have money. He says, when the account is drawn down and there is no longer any Forex account left to raid, they are inevitably going to raid consumer Forex accounts. If you are still keeping dollars in a Nigerian domiciliary bank account, then you have a very high risk appetite. It's just trying to tell you, liquidate, liquidate, liquidate. Because one day you might go to draw down your money from Access Bank or Zenith Bank or GT Bank or UBA, and they tell you, we don't have liquidity now. Come back later. Don't say you are not warned by someone like David Hunde. And that is a very big challenge for us because, as I said yesterday, the hen that is laying the golden egg, which is the crude oil we have, they get the crude oil, they sell the little they could sell after they have stolen others, And then they still use the proceeds to do what? To buy refined products to come and sell to us as PMS, as petrol, as diesel, as kerosene. And so, how do people get money to pay school fees overseas? How do people get money to treat themselves overseas? Whereas they use the little we have to treat themselves from the official government money. And they put their own children. Is it not funny? All former Vice President Oshibanjo's children studied overseas. All former President Buhari children studied overseas. And many of them graduated whilst their parents were president and vice president. Dave Umahi of Ebonyi State, the children studied overseas. Wike overseas. All of them. Whilst our own education sector is being rubbished by them, they put their own children outside and use the foreign exchange we don't have there and tell you to stay in Nigeria. You know, I would have said let everybody stay in Nigeria, but why should their own children go overseas to study and they ask your own children to stay back home? You know what? They want to perpetuate that cycle of class whereby we remain at the receiving end and they continue to be at the giving end. But I know that God is going to help us in this country. So let's move on to the next one now. And that is the news that we actually brought it yesterday. We made it a strong part of our discussion yesterday that a lot of people who are in research, security research, foreign affairs research, they are feeding Nigerians with the feelers they are getting from DEA, from CIA, from Homeland Security, and from FBI of the position of the US. And that is sending signal to our Supreme Court saying, do the needful. Now, it's not as if Nigeria is not a sovereign state. And to be honest, it's not as if America is going to move to come and begin to shoot and force anybody out of government or topple anybody. No. But the implication, just like the man, Gregory, that spoke yesterday said, the implication, it borders on the integrity of Nigeria and also on the perception the international community have on Nigeria. This might just be that government that if it remains, will have a very frosty and cold relationship with the Western world that we need. We are talking, and you say, how do we need them? Well, we need the foreign investment. We need these people to bring their resources here. Because if that foreign investment is not there, if we don't have that liquidity, if we don't have that cash flow, Naira will keep on melting. Let me tell you something. What was that his name? That was the president of Zimbabwe for about 30-something years. Mugabe. When President Mugabe said, we can do it alone, it's not as if he did not start. He's actually started well because he was a popular person. But when he went wild with his ideologies that started impoverishing the Zimbabweans, what happened? The Cold War between Zimbabwe and the Western world started. Not even one bullet was shot, and nobody attempted to overthrow him. But a time came in Zimbabwe when $5 was equal to 50 million Zimbabwean dollars.
Doc, please, I wanted to say something actually about the topic you handled before now. Please, sorry that I'm taking you
Let's
back.
go ahead. No, that's great.
Yeah, I really want to say that currently the whereabouts of the president is even not known. Some people are saying that he's not feeling too well. And honestly, we've not gotten any official statement, from his spokespersons. And like you made reference of his son, there's this video on Twitter where his son was celebrating his 38th birthday using the presidential jet. And like you equally mentioned during the opening remark, that there have been speculations that he's the one that sees, that handles this recruitment of a thing, as in he's the one like that decides who is being picked and who is not being picked. Nigerians, let's just leave sentiment by the side. Let's just keep this ethnicity and religion, all those weapons that these our politicians use, to manipulate the citizens. Let's just ask ourselves, is this the kind of Nigeria that we actually want? A Nigeria that somebody will come out and say, I'm ready to serve. And then INEC said, okay, it's you that I will give to Nigerians. They gave you to Nigerians. And now there are these speculations. Every day is something new, that your son is the one that decides who is being picked. Look at the EFCC chairman that was appointed. People have been saying all kinds of things, that this person is not even qualified. He has not gotten the kind of experience that the Constitution requires for whosoever is going to occupy that space. But they insisted. And the worst part is that Nigeria is a country where our government always don't want to listen to what the people are saying, and they don't want to check what the Constitution equally says. Once they take a decision, as in people have been crying out, but it's falling on deaf ears. They are not even listening. You selected a man and you are being told that according to the Constitution, this man didn't meet the criteria to fit in for this office. And they said, it is him we want. We have chosen. So you can imagine the kind of things that is happening in our country. And Doc equally made mention of this amount of money that was spent just on hotel bills. Nigerians, this is not really funny. If you can, I don't even know, some of us who are not in Nigeria may not even understand what people are going through. People are going through a lot. And they keep telling us that we should be patient with the government. The wife to the president said her husband is not a magician, that he can't just come into office and make magic. But they are not really, putting measures in place to arrest some of these situations that Nigerians are going through currently. And honestly, we are just hoping that the Supreme Court will help us. So all these things, let's not just keep quiet and say that it does not concern us. It concerns us because we have people in Nigeria, we have people outside Nigeria, directly or indirectly, all these things are telling on us. So Doc, back to the topic that you were handling about the United States. We're also happy that at least the United States is showing interest. They are showing interest, meaning that they really want democracy to work in Nigeria. That is what they said they believe in. They believe in democracy. So they shouldn't try to, keep quiet when it comes to that of Nigeria, especially now that things are not going well. We've seen that the president, his certificates have issues, and people have come out to say, no, he didn't forge. The school said he attended, and the school said the certificate given to INEC didn't come from us. So all these things are what we want our Supreme Court to pay attention to when delivering their judgment. So I'm really happy that the United States is picking up. Maybe one of their agencies is saying this, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense. Doc, back to you, please.
Yeah, thank you. It's really surprising how people keep missing the point. They keep saying he attended, he attended. We have moved on from the era of whether he attended, he did not attend, even though there is still a very big question mark whether he attended. But be that as it may, the issue indeed is not even whether he attended. The issue is the certificate he gave to INEC. Was it issued by the university? And the university has said officially under oath, no, we did not give that one. That is it. That is what Supreme Court should look at. I will be so disappointed and even ashamed of myself as a Nigerian if the Supreme Court veers towards the record of whether he attended. That is immaterial. That is not the substance of the case. That's not the substance of the case. It's like you have a passport issued to you by the Nigerian Immigration Service, all right? It's like you have everything put together, but you appeared at the airport. You wanted to travel. You get to border control or passport control, and they ask you to bring passport. And you bring out another person's passport where you have torn off the data page of the person and put your own data page. And then because that passport is the Central Republic of Nigeria, and you're saying, call immigration service to confirm whether I have ever come to do my biometrics or whether they give me a passport. They might give you passport, but the question they're asking you is, as you're standing before the passport control at the airport, this passport you presented here, was it given to you by the Nigerian Immigration Service? The answer is no. It does not matter if the Director General of the Controller General was even the person who signed your passport. It is immaterial. When they slaughtered the biometrics of the passport, even though it's carrying your data because you have already swapped something, it showed a red light, king, this is not you. Because your biometrics must match with the biometric of the passport. That's as simple as that. And then, just like you said about the appointment of the EFCC chairman, the law is explicitly clear. And as we said earlier this week in some of our programs, the path they took in the hiring of this person is also exactly the same path they took in becoming government today, which is what? Violation of the act that established the EFCC and how to appoint the chairman. Just like they violated the act, the 2022 Electoral Act that determine how elections should be held and how the president should be selected. They violated it, they bulldozed their way through and foisted themselves on us. And they want to foist EFCC chairman on us. Whereas I don't have any problem with that. My problem is, will our court, especially our Supreme Court, go on to keep on enforcing this? And yesterday we had a discussion. For those of you who have not seen our program yesterday, we had it on a good note that indeed, just as we forecasted when the list of the ministers came out, that the defense lawyer for the APC was promoted even before the case he defended, the judgment was given, and made the Minister of Justice, such that he is now the chief executive officer of our judiciary sector, as it were. Meaning that the budget that the NJC, National Judicial Council, which is headed by the Chief Justice of the Federation, the budget that National Judicial Council will present to the National Assembly in this last quarter of the year for their fiscal year of next year will be handed over to the man who was a defense lawyer in a case that the court has not given judgment. Because remember that this appeal that has gone to the Supreme Court is the case that started since March, when Labour Party and PDP petitioned the court. Is it not true? So the man who was a defense lawyer in this case is now the man who will be calling the shots. He is the chief executive officer. He is the boss of the Chief Justice of the Federation. He is the go-between the Chief Justice of the Federation who represents the NJC and the presidency. I mean, how does even, is this not, if it were to be a judge, they say recuse yourself. How could a president do a thing like that? No moral in that particular appointment at all. It is prima facie case of manipulation of the judiciary. We forecasted it when we saw his name, and yesterday it appeared in our broadcast. We saw it that Justice Inyang Okoro, who had spoken always in favor of APC, is the head of the panel, the Supreme Court panel, that will handle the appeal. And it has already been confirmed in that news report yesterday that they are using DSS to, to remind the judges that, mind yourself, watch yourself. The body language of the DSS is telling the judges, sit up and do our bidding. And that this Attorney General that we know when he was appointed is the go-between now between the presidency and the Supreme Court. And that the Inyang Okoro man, who is the head of the panel, is trying his best to secure the support of the panelists even before the panel starts seeing, meaning they are vetting them, as we had said in one of our programs. Something that only happened in the parliament or in the National Assembly, whereby if you are interested in going for, say, the Senate president, you first of all do your caucus meeting with the majority and say, do I have your vote? Do I have your vote? Do I have your vote? And then you come publicly, officially to do the final ceremony where everybody raised their hand. But the vote would have been secured informally in the chambers before they come out in the gallery to do the final. That is what they are turning the judiciary into. A situation whereby even before judges start sitting on a case, they will be in the chambers, give their approval, give their affirmation, give their word that I will rule in this direction before they put them in the panel. And they now come and sit and just endorse it. These are the kind of things that even the U.S. Department are seeing, and is making them to subtly use their agencies to lend their own support. What do I mean by subtly? Because it's not, how do they call it in the U.S.? The foreign ministry, they call it Secretary of State, Department of States. Department of States is like their own foreign affairs. They are not coming to say, hey, we are warning you people, but they are lending support by authorizing and clearing FBI, please unbundle what you have. DEA, go ahead with your job. CIA, go ahead with your job. IRS, go ahead with your job. Unleash on the internet, unleash to the Nigerian system the dossier we have on these people who have put us in this contraption called a government now. So that's how I want to look at that, if you don't mind. Thank you. And so I don't know if you want to say something before I go on the Sheyi guy.
Yeah, Doc, you can still go on.
All right. So there were some slide I gave you regarding the scandals that is happening about who is appointing who in Nigeria. And especially, I don't know if you could please help me put it out so that I could read through what we have there. Okay, that's the video one inside the presidential jet. Nigerians, just look at it. This is our presidential jet that they convert into a party in the air. You know, this is Nigerians are burning with hardship, and some rich kids are not just spending their father's money, but spending our money doing party in the air. Do you know the kind of resources that is deployed whenever the presidential jet is fueled, when it is taxiing, when it is in the air? The whole of the Nigerian Air Force is deployed. They are on alert to make sure that nothing happens. All our defense mechanism is deployed to make sure, because when the presidential jet is in the air, it's as good as the presidency is in the air. But when the security is doing those things, they are not doing it for the purpose of a president serving Nigeria, but a boy who just chose to call his fellow guys for them to party in the air. That's the best of what we can have. He says, Sheyi Tinubu accused of handing out government appointment to his friends without merit. And so when you begin now to hear that somebody who is doing NYSC is made a minister, you cannot begin to reason where it's coming from. And you know the funny thing? The impunity in their mind, the I don't care attitude in their mind will even make them say, whether this person is doing NYSC or is not doing NYSC, I don't care. I want her there. I want him there. And it will happen. Nigerians can burn. We don't care. Now, this is from Business Day. Business Day check reveals that a new set of cabal made up of Wale Edu, Minister of Finance, and Coordinating Minister of Economy, Dele Alake, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Femi Gbajabiamila, Chief of Staff to the President, Oloremi Tinubu, First Lady, and Seyi Tinubu, President's son, who was actively behind the scene. Now, listen, this is the kitchen cabinet, this is the cabal. But Seyi Tinubu was actively behind the scene, behind the father's electionary campaign, mobilizing several youth groups to key into his father's election project. These are all remotely controlled appointments in the presidential villa. So you see how we get our team, the dream team, the economic rescue team, the team that will make Nigeria the El Dorado. You see how they came. And you see that it's just a team selected by people who are having fun, who will get on a presidential jet to go to Kano to watch a match. The next day, probably they will actually fuel the presidential jet, maybe to come and watch Arsenal and Man U when they're playing. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. And then they will fly into London, Heathrow, or London Gatwick, or anywhere, and pay the hanging fee that runs into hundreds of thousands per night. That is what we got in government. Anyway, maybe we're going to call it a night tonight. Tomorrow is the beginning of the new week, the new working week. The week actually started today. And we're going to be coming in a more formal way. This Sunday night is more like, like side news, but it's important we know what's the update. We hope to bring you the latest on what is happening in the Supreme Court issue and other factors from tomorrow. That will be more formal, more official. Please stay tuned and always come to hang out with us in the evening. I don't know if you have another thing.
Yeah, Doc, I wanted you to comment a bit on this image that I have here, because the FBI is about to start dropping the copies they promised David. Yeah, it would be nice. It would be interesting to see what they will be giving.
Yeah, that would be in 1 week time. I mean,
yes.
I have not gotten clearance for that, but I'm in touch with David. I'm sure as soon as it comes, either he pushes it out. I can tell you that if David gets it now, even as you're on air, as soon as I come off air, I'll have access to it, because I try to communicate him when I could and when I think it is necessary.
So how relevant would that be to the Supreme Court ruling?
Well, we need to be objective. Yes, Supreme Court is independent, quote and unquote. Supreme Court cannot be dictated by even the President Biden or the Prime Minister of the UK. That's why I keep using the word, they are subtly rendering their own support. Maybe, let me say it again. Maybe people didn't understand what I said. When I gave an example of Zimbabwe, I'm trying to say that sometimes when they subtly tell you what to do and you don't do it, they also withdraw their support and cripple you. You can see that indeed, you think you can do without them. You can't really do without them. There's no country in this world that can stand on its own. When you pull out of a certain block, you must fall into the other block, because you can't function on your own. You can't function on your own. Those who pulled out of NATO, for instance, are trying to rally around Russia as the head of the former Warsaw, if you understand it in terms of the security, Warsaw Pact. Iran, Hamas, and what have you, they're all lining behind Russia. You can't stay on your own. That's the fact. And when those blocks withdraw their support, you're on your own. And what they're doing now, if FBI and co are able to produce something, they say, we had this person as a private person, but now the person is the president. If you have this person as a president, it's going to affect our diplomatic relationship with you. You do know what that means. I said it's subtle, may not be formal, but sometimes an informal rejection can be as brutal as you can imagine, if you understand what I mean. Okay, so that is it.
Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you so much. So viewers, thank you all for joining us today We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Please like this video so that YouTube can recommend it for more people to watch. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for future updates. With this, I want to say a very big thank you for joining us today. See you again tomorrow, and good night. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Great.